what's up? It's Joe Rady from Rady's Rides. We're back here in the OG filming spot location right in my backyard because you know what? We have a hatchback that has that zoom quality to it. This is it. This is a 2022 Mazda 3. The best news is this isn't just a regular Mazda 3 hatchback. This is a Mazda 3 turbocharged hatchback. But before we get into this all-wheel drive forced induction version of the Mazda 3, let's talk about what's going on here. Once upon a time in a galaxy very, very far away, Mazda used to be all about zoom. There was the Mazda Speed 3. Of course, you had the Mazda Miata MX-5. And that was what driving was about having fun. Now, Mazda has taken a little bit different approach to their vehicles. They want to be viewed as being more grown up, but I'm here to tell you, boys and girls out there, growing up sucks. It's all about having some fun, especially behind the wheel. And guess what? Mazda has brought some of that back. Now, when we talk about hatchbacks and hot hatches, there's a lot of competition out there, believe it or not. There once upon a time was just one, the original, the OG of hot hatches. That would be the Volkswagen GTI. But now, with the new introduction of the Civic Type R coming, not only from the 10th generation, but the new 11th generation coming up, we have this turbocharged hatchback of a Mazda product. But what I want to find out is this hot enough to buy over a Volkswagen GTI? And you might be saying to yourself, well, Joe, the GTI is front-wheel drive. This is all-wheel drive. Shouldn't you compare it to the Golf R? Not exactly, because I'm also taking into consideration price point and overall horsepower output to make it a little bit more even-steven. So let's go ahead, let's dive into this beautiful dark metallic gray Mazda 3 turbo hatch and see, is it the better hot hatch over a Volkswagen GTI? Let's go ahead and find out. Right off the bat, I love the style. Very, very clean. There's not a lot of straight lines on the Mazda 3 body, and I really dig that. Now, when you look at the front of the business, what are you getting? You're getting adaptive LED headlights. So what does that mean? The headlights actually move with the steering. You'll notice our LED daytime running lamps and turn signals, and I think the size of the headlight housing just helps make the front of this look so much more sportier than a Volkswagen GTI, which remember, the GTI is now in the 8th generation. It received a redesign for the new model year. You'll notice no fake vents, nice and smooth to help channel that air. On the turbo, you actually get a lower front splitter area. So you can see how it drops down on the corners, but then as we come across the front, it's gotta be one of the sleekest noses, grille areas in the compact car segment. So you're gonna have your gloss black on your center grille, forward-facing camera, and that iconic Mazda badge. And what I'm really digging is how they did like a dark chrome finish on the trim that runs underneath the grille. And that's meant to mimic this design right here. That's where they got that and they brought it into the front. I love how far this front splitter extends. That's gonna help stop air from going underneath the front of the vehicle and get more air for those places that need the cooling to take place. But definitely the color. There's not one bad color in Mazda's lineup. And this one definitely looks much more sleek than a Volkswagen GTI. Now, when we get up onto that low slung hood, it's real simplicity. Everything just flows right to the A-pillars, not a bunch of bends or creases. When we come around the bend, what are we working with? Wheel and tire setup. So what you're gonna find is a multi-spoke, 10-spoke gloss black wheel. I like the simple, clean design. It is an 18-inch wheel. So obviously on the GTI, you can get larger wheels, all the way up to 19-inch and whatnot. The biggest hang-up is the width. So the tires are 215 at all four corners. That really needs to be like a 235 or a 245. Get a little bit more rubber to meet the road, but the great news is we got that all-wheel drive. You can see our fully ventilated rotors. Could be nice to have some extra braking capability because you do have extra straight line ability, so it would be nice to be able to slow down a little bit more effectively. But 215 on the width, 45 series sidewall, and I think the wheels match the body very, very cleanly. Now, as we come down the side, nothing stuck on, nothing like that. You do have painted metallic black on the mirror caps, very small turn signals. I think the biggest zonk though is not going to be the mirrors, it's going to be the silver trim that lies behind it. Along the bottom portion, we have this bright silver metal trim, not really working for me. Everything else is blacked out. This should be dark chrome. I would even prefer gloss black over this shiny metalwork, but they did a great job on these super slim door handles. And then you'll notice along the bottom, you have that sill extension that actually flares out as you come towards the rear of the vehicle. Gives it that extra sporty look. One of the bad things is that you do have a limited amount of headroom for the rear seat passengers because you can see how sleek the roof line is. But for some reason, I really love this rear area, the way it kind of flares out from the rear pillar. You'll notice the additional spoiler that's added to the rear spoiler that's already there for your roof. So you have this additional piece to help flow air underneath and above and across to give us some downforce. Would have been nice to get rid of this wiper and stick it up underneath to really clean it up, but they do a great job on their taillights. Very supercar-esque with how they're illuminated and the way that they're shaped at the rear of the vehicle. You'll notice our Mazda 3 badging, all-wheel drive, and that sends power front to rear. And then of course we got the turbo badge because that's going to give us the extra power at the end of the day. And then working our way all the way down, it is a little gloss black heavy, but the thing that I like is that you have a single exhaust outlet on both sides and they are functional. Nice slash cut, sort of round to oval shape to the actual outlet. But it would have been nice to have these badges, everything blacked out. I think that would help with the overall sporty feel. But why don't we go ahead, let's pop the hood and see what's powering our turbocharged Mazda. All right guys, we got the hood popped. You do have a prop rod, but you know what? The Volkswagen GTI also has a prop rod. Underneath the hood is that tried and true power plant. You have a simplistic engine cover. It looks okay. I'm not gonna say yay or nay in any which direction, but you know what? It's the turbocharger that adds the extra something something. So a 2.5 liter inline-4 turbocharged engine. If you use premium fuel, you don't have to, but I highly recommend it. You will get the full amount of power. 250 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque. It's made it to a 6-speed automatic transmission. When you compare that to the GTI, obviously you have your choice of a manual or a DCT, a dual clutch transmission. We have all-wheel drive though, 0 to 60 in about 5.5 seconds. So in a straight line, she's got some get up and go. Top speed around 136 miles an hour. Weight, 3,383 pounds. MPG is not too shabby for an all-wheel drive turbocharged car. 23 in the city, 32 on the highway. I know a lot of you zonked the 6-speed automatic. I'm just glad it's not a CVT, and you know what? It actually behaves fairly well. But why don't we go ahead, let's fire it up and hear what kind of noise it makes. All right, guys, we're inside this Mazda 3 Turbo, and this is where really we see a nice mano-a-mano competition between the Volkswagen GTI and this Mazda 3. Volkswagen has always been known, especially over the past few generations of the GTI, to have that upgraded interior, say over a Civic, over a Subaru WRX, vehicles like that. Well, guess what? Mazda has upped the ante. This is why they dropped the Zoom Zoom whole moniker, because they wanted to really show what they could do on the interior. I say you could have your cake and eat it too, but I know what you're saying. Joe, I priced the GTI. They're not cheap like they used to be anymore. How much is this Mazda 3? So MSRP for this all-wheel drive, turbocharged Mazda 3 with the way the interior is and everything is right at $36,000. Let's see how it competes with the GTI and what you get for the money. To the door panels. Now, I absolutely think it's so great the way they did the two-tone with the dark cherry red. So up top, soft touch material, In the center, soft touch red with the nice stitching. We got the Bose sound system, very high quality speaker grille cover, nice trim. Little bit of gloss black on the switchgear, but then everything else is soft touch on the armrest. Door pocket is a little tight, so maybe 2 empanadas and a bottle of Topo Chico to wash it down. Now going from the door panel to the dash, same story. Soft touch, two-tone. I like the way they blend the AC vents in with the trim. Here's where the zonk is gonna fall. I know it, I could already feel it from you. There's our infotainment system. It's an 8.8 inch, that floating iPad, very stylish. It's not a touchscreen though. You could touch it, but it does not do anything. The infotainment system visually is better in the GTI. I'm not so sure anymore about functionality with the changes that they made, but you do have navigation, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, but you can't do anything by touching the screen. Let me throw it into reverse. Backup cameras are as clear as day. I mean, it's like you have an extra set of eyeballs that you had attached to the back of the car, 360, trajectory and everything else. Put it back into park, and then we're right back where we started. Soft touch, we got dual climate control. And I'm telling you, the switchgear in here outshines the GTI, because now the GTI is just a bunch of touchscreen stuff. We do have 3 stages of heated seats. You got a heated steering wheel, and then there's your start-stop button, conveniently placed. Very easy to get to. We have our Twinkie tray down below. Easily put 8 to 12 Twinkies. 2 cup holders. This is going to control our 6-speed automatic. A little bit of gloss black. And then this is how you control your infotainment system with the direct drive control knob. I am sweating a lot, so I have to get my Mazda towel and actually dry off all my sweat. But that's what hard work looks like, everybody. What am I going to do? You could actually slide the center console lid forward and back, so you could have it a little here. You could have it here. You could have it right about there. You could open it up. Here's your Mazda key fob. Sort of looks like a Zippo lighter in a way. Very, very light. I think I like the Volkswagen key fob maybe a little bit more, but still very, very nice. USB A's, 12 volt, and then you got this little divider in here. And what's great about this is that you could actually separate your ding-dongs from your ho-hos. So I say ding-dongs go up front, ho-hos go on the back, but listen, that's your life. You live it the way you want to live it. If you want your ho-hos up front, go for it. Knock yourself out. What's a knockout are these seats. Love the leather, nice soft material, perforated, very stylish. Not a ton of bolstering, but boy, oh boy, are they comfy, especially the bottom portion. They did a great job making this bottom portion nice and large. You do have manual seat controls for the passenger up front and on the side. I have electric assist because I'm the captain of this hot hat ship. And you do have a standard sunroof. There it is, if you didn't see it. See it? There it is. But why don't you come over to the business end? I want to show you behind the wheel of this Mazda 3 Turbo. All right, guys, business time behind the wheel. You do have your power seat settings. Not a lot of adjustment, but just enough to make things interesting. Still, the seats are great. And for such a low roof line, you do get plenty of headroom up front. Little bit different story for the backseat passengers. The steering wheel, nice thin spokes, really looks sporty for this type of vehicle. Love the way it's got some flat black and some silver. You do have paddles on the back of the steering wheel. They are very small, but they're there to go up and down the 6-speed automatic transmission. You do also have 2 memory seat settings for the seat, which is great. And it's a manual tilting and telescoping steering wheel. Dash, even though it looks like an analog speedometer, that's a digital speedometer. And then you have some digital readouts on each side, and then the rest is going to be analog. And there's a head-up display. So that's a nice, clear layout. It's just, I don't know, that infotainment system, I think I'm ready for a change. Let me know how you feel about it. But why don't we go ahead, let's get in the back seat and see if your passengers are going to have to really shrink in size to fit back there in the Mazda 3. All right, guys, back seat time, and here's another area where the Volkswagen GTI just kicks its butt. I'm not feeling like it's super claustrophobic in here, but it is tighter. It is a tighter space than the Volkswagen GTI. The seats are comfy though, and I am digging the red leather interior. Backs of the seats nice and soft. You do have 1 pocket, and what I recommend putting back here, there's a great book about how Mazda was the first Japanese auto manufacturer to ever win the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Plus, they are the one and only manufacturer to win the 24 Hours Le Mans overall with a rotary powered car. No other brand has done that, and that's the zoom zoom quality of Mazda that I'll never forget. But one thing I want to forget, no connectivity. No 12 volt, no USB-A, no USB-C. There's not even like 2 cans and a string back here to talk to anybody. So that's a little bit of a problem. What's not a problem is this super massive soft, look at this. That's the noise that it makes. Armrest, gonna keep you comfy, and 2 cup holders. But why don't we go ahead, let's get into that hatchback area and see what kind of cargo space we have in the Mazda 3. All right guys, hatchback time. Obviously cargo is gonna be important to people who buy a hatchback. I do like the way that they hide the button for the hatch right underneath the Mazda badge. Flip it up. This is where the GTI definitely wins hands down. What you're greeted to is 13 cubic feet of space. Not as much as the GTI, but still I like the way that they have a very low cargo floor. Obviously, the seats will do the 60-40 Tango split. Let's see if we get a spare. Yes, that is one major plus. Lots of brands getting rid of their spare tires. You do get a spare on this turbocharged Mazda 3 hatch. But why don't we go ahead, if you're ready, I'm definitely ready. Let's do some on throttle with our all-wheel drive Mazda 3. All right, guys, we're inside this 2022 Mazda 3 Turbo. I have it in sport mode, and I shut the traction control off. We're gonna see how this competes against the GTI. Here we go, on throttle. Nice. Gets the power to the ground nicely. I like the sound coming into the cabin. Would like to see a little bit more tire. I need a little bit more tire. And definitely bring back the multi-link independent rear suspension. It's one of those things that definitely not as hot of a hot hatch as a Volkswagen GTI. It's just missing some of those key components. Multi-link independent rear suspension, limited slip diffs, a wider wheel and tire setup, and some improved brakes. But with all that being said, there is still something very enjoyable about driving this Mazda 3, especially the turbo and especially with the all-wheel drive. The interior is where Mazda knocks it out of the park, except for the infotainment. Everything else, seats, the armrests, the steering wheel, everything is really nicely done in here. And visibility out the back, at least from the driver's standpoint, straight out the back isn't too bad. You do have some blind spots from the rear pillars, but use your mirrors, use your head, rotate it back and forth. That's what it's there for, so that you can kind of navigate around that. But definitely the best part of this is that this is gonna be an ideal daily driver that allows you to kind of let your hair down and have some fun when the opportunity rises. You do have a small gear indicator, drop down to third, second. You know, the feedback is pretty good to the steering wheel, and if you like a lighter steering effort, you're gonna like the Mazda 3 Turbo. It just, like I said, I would like to see just a little bit of a zoom added to this, because I feel like they're so close. They brought us so close and then just didn't carry us all the way to the finish line, so to speak. So just something to be aware of when you're comparing the GTI to this. But if you want something that looks sportier, this definitely has a sportier look, in my opinion, compared to the GTI. But let's go ahead, let's go on throttle again from a dead stop. On throttle, here we go. Oh, that one was better. Little slow on the upshift. But when the road gets twisty, I get a smile on my face. Nice. I mean, it's very compliant. It's very composed. You gotta work with it. You just gotta work with the body roll a bit. It's got a bit more body roll than the GTI. And then, like I said, that limited slip diffs would really pay big dividends. Definitely making plenty of power. I mean, that's one good thing, is I feel like the torque and the power delivery is pretty meaty for this power plant. It's just a little bit more on the luxury side. It's sort of like when we reviewed the Audi S5 against the BMW M440i. The BMW M440i just feels a little bit more sporty compared to the S5, a little bit more racy compared to the Audi S5. Where same story. This is good, it's just that the GTI is a little bit better, or maybe a bit better, depending on what you want. The sound deadening material in here is really great. I like the way I feel behind the wheel. I mean, that's one of the most important things. Being behind the wheel, I feel really good in this Mazda 3 Turbo. And I really think that for me, it's a viable option. It's nice to see them doing all-wheel drive. It's nice to see them doing turbocharged power. Just bring a little bit of a like Mazda 3 Turbo R or something like that, if you don't want to call it a Mazda Speed 3 anymore. But let's do a little bit more driving, because that's where I have my fun. Oh, here we go. The grip is phenomenal. Grip level is no problem. Here we go. It's just those 215s are a little too narrow. You can hear them fighting for grip. Still fun to drive. Now that was fun. It's crazy because as you push it a little bit harder and a little bit harder, you start to overwork the tires, and it kind of makes it a little bit more fun. Not the fastest way of doing things if you're at a track or doing an autocross event or something like that, but definitely on your favorite back twisty road, it's a lot of fun, because I was able to get the rear to pivot on me to kind of straight line the exit out of the turn, and that's all because of it being under tired. You know, so that's one thing just to think about. But once you get a handle on this direct drive control knob for the infotainment system, it's not that big of a deal. I would like to see the 10.25-inch screen in here. I still think you would have plenty of visibility, especially because the screen that's there now, there's plenty of real estate to actually make that screen larger. You don't even have to make the housing bigger, just make the screen larger. But definitely, I think you're gonna feel more comfortable in this Mazda 3 Turbo over the GTI. I just love the fit and finish. It's really nicely put together. All right, guys, well, we need to wrap this one up, but I wanna go one more time through the twisty bits just for you, and definitely just for me as well. But let's do a roll from second gear. On throttle, here we go. Telling you, the torque delivery's there. Nice beefy torque curve. We're up to fourth gear. On those brakes. Gotta wait for the downshift. Then you just chuck her right into a corner. Look at this. The all-wheel drive does grip you though, so you don't have to worry about losing control. At least I don't. Nice. There you go. That was flat-footed through that left-right transition. It does bring a smile to your face. I just think you have a little bit more availability for more smiles per miles with the GTI, especially if you go something with the manual, but obviously the DCT, or I should say DSG in the Volkswagen, is a potent gearbox as well. But we're gonna get back to where it all started and wrap this one up, so I'll see you in a split second. All right, guys, been another great day with this Mazda 3 Turbo. I want to thank everybody over at Mazda USA for allowing us here at Rady's Rides access to this press fleet vehicle. But let me know what you think. Is it hot enough? or is it more like a mild to medium on the hotness of this hatchback? Would you prefer the GTI, the tried and true OG of this category of compact car? Let me know in that comment section. But until we meet another day in another turbocharged vehicle, if you're new to the channel, you're on your way out, hit the subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile. Come back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Ladies Rides family. We got to give it up to Steven of Steven Flood Photography, working that camera. He's doing the extra time at the gym to get his cardio down pat, to make sure that he could get you all the angles without falling down. So thank you, Steven, for all that you do. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.